Well, I am sitting here fresh off Mel Gibb Swan's race. The day started so great. I was worried this might happen. Even I just took for granted that Mounds for all was a lock. And that Mel Gibb Swan, if we got away close, we were good. Sweeney had a shot. But again, I wanted to see how we got him in a bigger bike tonight. Wanted to see how much better or if there was any changes. Did a little bit of vet work to him, but Kentucky, right? We had 3 horses in Kentucky also. So we'll start with the good news. I'll run through the qualifiers again for those of you who maybe missed the earlier video. Pickpocket was great, second in 56 and 2, 28 and 4 in the end of it. Last half 56 and 4. He's ready to go. Widespread Panic looked good. First start south of the border anyway. I keep forgetting that he raced a couple of times last year. He was very good. 59 and 1, 29 and 4 in the end of it, but 4 3/4 length winner, won very easily. Flash Fly was great. Very happy with her. Now, she was entrapped today, and I knew it during the qualifier, but still, you would never know. If you didn't check, you would never know there was anything wrong with this filly. So she's going tomorrow morning to get that entrapment fixed. The timing to have her ready for the first Stallion Series in the Meadows is perfect. So we're making the best of a I don't want to say horrible situation because it's easily fixed. Obviously, Lonely Lakewood was fixed, and so was Pickpocket. So it's not the end of the world, but the timing is good. Let's leave it at that. And then Gypsy Hill was tremendous. Gold stars to him and Pickpocket today. Really, really impressed. And as I told you guys, we'll talk about this with another horse in a minute, but there's no magic, right? When you get a horse like Gypsy Hill, and when I'm looking at his mechanics last week, I knew it was not mechanical. Sure, those brakes, he's touching himself. I get it. I know he is. But what I'm looking at is more of a mental issue. When you rewind all the way to last year, Gypsy Hill hit hard up high under his jack left hind, put a hematoma on there, a small one throughout the whole year. We'd ice it and sweat it and tub it and shock it just to keep him racing and keep him good. And I think that, that sunk in. And the first couple of times at top speed, when you give it a whack, those memories came flooding back. And that might sound silly to some people, but that's certainly how it felt to me. And I told you the only way to get through it was for him to work through it. Dig in, get back to work, and rinse and repeat. And we did that last week. Last week he's worked a lot, worked very, very hard on the track, and it showed today. His mind changed. I did not think it would take 7 days. I thought it would take 2 or 3 weeks. But what a different horse state. Now, we did make some changes. We made a little shoeing change behind. We added some weight up front. Took the head poles off him that maybe were pinching him in the turn. Opted for a line pole and a Murphy blind. These are things that all, I think cumulatively, they all helped. But in his head, I'm almost certain that was the biggest thing. So happy the way that the Meadows went. I was curious how they would go tonight. I didn't see Sweeney making a break, and I can tell you, he was just out of sorts tonight. I'd sent a message to Joel, who bred him, and is a major owner still in the horse, and said, listen, he just wasn't himself tonight. Seems a little stiff behind, but and I'm worried about shipping him next week because he just frets the whole night, right? You get him jogged, he's fine, he's happy on the track, comes in, he just shakes in the paddock. I can't help but thinking this horse, and a couple of times we checked and he hasn't, but I can't help but thinking this horse ties up a little bit. And, I wouldn't blame him. We just had another mental block we just have to get him through. That one's a little harder. That one's easier said than done. So we're going to have to, I guess, take a step back and look at Sweeney again and say, hey, is there anything else bothering him? I thought the way the track was really hard tonight, that it was more his feet. I knew 3 steps out of the gate that we were going to have a real problem in the first turn. And sure enough, we got to the turn. I could feel him try and work through it, and roll off coming out of the turn. That's an eighth of a mile. An eighth of a mile into the race. This horse doesn't look to make breaks. So something was bothering him today. I could see it kind of manifest itself behind. Stiff behind, really kind of... I don't know the best way to explain it. Just real stiff behind, and not like tied up stiff, but just uncomfortable. He was just uncomfortable, and more times than not, we talk about this all the time, horses that are sore up front and they load that weight behind, then they start to get stiff. And that's more what I felt I saw tonight with him. So again, we will redraw his blood tomorrow to see what that AST count looks like, and we will work on his back, work on his back end, but again, address what I believe is the real issue, which is his front end. Now, we have flip-flops on him, so it's not like I would think that's kind of the gold standard as far as alleviating foot soreness, depending on what the soreness is. But if it's just your run-of-the-mill chronic soreness on a hard track, he had the right shoes on for that tonight, and if that was the case, then I think we got to look a little harder and work a little harder on those. We get into Mounds for All, and, I was mad after the race. Did I put him in a stupid spot? I tried to not take for granted that he was a 4 to 5 horse in there. And I did have him in a spot, third over, gapping cover. He had a chance to fire down the backstretch and grinded it out. Part of me is angry because he didn't clear an attack down the lane, but for the love of God, he was 3 wide from the paddock all the way to the wire, digging to the wire, and ended up second. I come off the track, and I'm like, should I have left a little more? Should I have just followed Chris and then, taken my medicine and take a run at them down the lane? And then it dawned on me, this is a 3-year-old colt that just raced 4 weeks in a row. He's got 3 wins in a second, beat 2 lengths. I think, I know the disgruntled horse is a nice horse, and the horse that won, I don't think any one of them want a piece of Mounds for All when he's on his game. He was not on his game tonight. He was a little bit tired. So I think rest next week. No entering him next week. We already made the final. Surely to God, 3 wins in a second, or whatever he has, 2 wins in a second now, is more than enough to get him in the final. Now, unless, I don't want to speak out of class. If I'm wrong and it wasn't 2 Iron Maidens that he won, but I'm pretty sure it was, I'm pretty sure he's in the final. Skip next week, race him in the final, and then continue on your way. And that will likely be the predominant plan with Mounds for All. When I look back on it, wasn't really running in anymore, didn't seem off or uncomfortable, didn't seem any of that. Just felt a hair flat. And by flat, I just mean he should have attacked down the backstretch and didn't. That's not his, again, he's learning how to race in a number of different ways. He won on the front, he won first over, he won second over after making a break. So he's learning to race in a number of ways, and asking him to accelerate down the backstretch, I don't think was out of order. It just seemed like he was a little dull tonight. And then I raced Mel Gibb Swan. I'm going to get messages. And even if I don't, people are going to be thinking, why didn't you move him? He's 6 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever he was. Why didn't you keep pushing to the front? I could have done all that. I could have kept pushing in the first turn, pushed him to the front, and Kurt Zug would have let me go, or he would have had to. I would have cleared to the front. But knowing where Hunter Myers got away, Hunter's coming first over with the other fresh pair of legs. Now I got Mel, who, truthfully speaking, good mile last week, but as I told everybody, that is not Mel Gibb Swan. Something is up with him. It's not just one thing. It's a number of things we're going to have to work on. And I just felt, for what it was going to cost me to get to the front and what was waiting on my doorstep coming to the half, he was going to get chewed up. And you were going to see a bad mile from Mel Gibb Swan. Now, I could have, as I said, moved to the front, or I could have came first over in front of Hunter. But again, why do I want to do all the work and tow the only horse that likely on paper can beat me into the race? Why do I want to do that? I don't mind him winning. I'm not going to help him do it. So I just rolled the dice, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to stay here. And to get out around the last turn, if Justin doesn't drop back down in front of me, I'm an easy third. He raced okay, but I could see a little stiff left hind, right? And I think his knees bother him quite a bit. He's a little pigeon-toed. The track was hard tonight. He's not comfortable on the track. He's not comfortable in the mile. And this isn't stiffness or this or lameness or anything. I think this is a combination of a number of things that are just bothering him. And I would caution everybody. I listen, if I drove him in an overly conservative way at 8 to 5, not pushing him to the front when I knew I could get there, not coming first over into a horse I knew I could clear, if I didn't do that, it's for good reason. And that's simply because I just don't want to expose Mel Gibb Swan just yet. I don't think he's up to the task just yet. Now, the good news is that there's nothing stopping him from being the Mel Gibb Swan of last year. Physically, he does not look like the same horse. He's a little more frail than I remember him. He doesn't have that grit, that pop to him. Coming off the car, he was looking around, didn't really know what he wanted to do in the first turn. Again, this is a horse that raced without hobbles last year and has them on now. So there's already questions before we get into it. I just think we just got to be cautious with him for a little while. And hope. There's no reason why he can't, but hope that Mel Gibb Swan comes around. And treat him accordingly until. First over on the front tonight, in my mind, even after, in hindsight, fully in hindsight, could have been catastrophic. I think you would have saw Hunter Myers grind him into dust and him finish up on his hands and knees. That's what I'm certain would have happened. I was sure of it when I dropped in the 4-hole in front of Hunter. I was sure of it when I didn't keep going to the front. And I'm absolutely positive of it right now after the race. He finished up and raced as good as he could. He came back to the paddock with his ears up. We will continue to try to sort out the root problems. It's not in his blood. right? She's not there. So what is causing the issues? What is eating Mel Gibb Swan? That's $1 million question. So he will race next week. We will continue to try and sort through him from what I saw tonight and what I saw in the replay. Running into the turns, I believe that's his knees. Maybe we'll touch up his knees a little bit. I think he's been loading weight on that left hind for a while. He just seemed like it wasn't operating in the same manner. It wasn't fluid. The right one was, and the left one's not. Plus, you factor in the fact that he bites that right line in the straightaways pretty hard sometimes. I think you have two problems. I think his knees are bothering him, and I think his left hind's bothering him a little bit. Is that his hock or his stifle? Well, that will be up to the veterinarian to diagnose. I can only tell him what I see, and what I see is a horse that is not super comfortable and certainly not confident of himself on the track right now. So that's where we want to get him to. And I can't tell you the best way to get him there, but I can easily tell you the easiest way to get him in the other direction, and that would have been to rough him up and, as I said, expose him tonight, and I chose not to do that. So then we went to Kentucky. Green Tea makes another break. A little disheartening, he's a little bit of he can be a little bit of a mongrel sometimes, but his qualifier showed speed and ability. His race showed speed and ability, but he just didn't seem to fire to me. In the next race, Johnny put him in a similar position I did, and he made a break. Now today, he looked like he was trying to be careful with him, and he made a break. Exactly 2 steps forward and 2 steps back is where he's at now. 3 if you count the fact that he has to qualify now. So I was disappointed to see that, but before him was Kings County. He looked dreadful. Kings County is racing in a sea of good horses, and I was worried this might happen. It's only common sense. You race for the most money, you're going to have the best horses. And the classes that Kings County is going to see for the next little bit are going to be a little problematic for him, I think. Especially if we can't get a regular driver to ask. I know Kings County. I can drive him. I wasn't going there today instead of going with these horses. And knowing that, who do we have next week? Brace, Lonely Lakewood, Militant. Didn't race bad. Militant, he was careful with them. I can't blame Johnny. He made a break with Green Tea 2 weeks in a row. It just wasn't working out. And he probably went into the race a little shaky, knowing that Militant hasn't been the greatest, was a little choppy looking. First time back with the hobbles on, he was probably a little careful with them. So you get, who do I got next week? Lonely Lakewood, Militant, Kings County, Brace for Landing is 4. Lover's Play, I moved back to the Meadows. She's gone. Green Tea is on the list. I'm missing somebody. That's 6. Oh, I must have raced today. Kings County. Green Tea's out. So Green Tea's out. Militant. Lonely Lakewood. Brace for Landing. I'm losing my mind. So I don't know what we're going to do yet. We got to get Eric some power down there. Kings County doesn't look like it's going to be him. So do we move him back to Southern Ohio? Do we move him to the Meadows? Move him to Ontario? I don't know. I don't know the best spot to go with Kings County at this point, but we'll endeavor to find out. So lots of things to talk about. Listen, good news. All the horses in the Meadows raced great, qualified great, and looked good. It looks like we had a good staff coming up there. We're constantly trying to populate other places too. Here, we're trying to strengthen here a little bit. Kentucky, we do have some power, but until we get our 2-year-olds down there, we get a little bit of a power outage. So see if we can't work our way through that best we can. I'll think about that tonight. I'll chew on that and see if I can't come up with a good answer. So as is right now, I wasn't disappointed with Mel Gibb Swan at all. I'm disappointed in the big picture of Mel Gibb Swan, but the horse that I drove tonight, I wasn't disappointed in him. Mounds for all, just think he was a little bit tired. Sweeney, we got to do some work on. Kings County, we got to figure out what we're doing with him. Militant, keep going. And Green Tea's on the list now. So that's what took place pari-mutually. Qualifiers were great, and looking for some more good luck tomorrow at Northfield Park. I don't think we don't have anything at the Meadows. We're just at Northfield, and we'll see how things work out tomorrow. Thursday, Now, I got to double check with Curtis, but Steve's all set. Thursday, we are planning to video all the babies for you. Now, buckle up, because we need to start at 8, and we need to be over before the qualifiers at 11. So it's going to be full speed ahead. We have a full grouping of riders, so it looks like it's going to be 5, maybe 6 sets at the very most. It should be a lot of fun. Captain Incredible arrived back at the barn tape. Looks great. Scott McInerney did a great job on him. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Have a wonderful night. I still have to drive 2 horses. One of them we have sold in the past. I got to drive Walter's Keepsake in the 14th and another horse in the 12th. Oh well, good luck to me. Anyway, take care. Have a wonderful night. I will talk to you all soon.